actually really eat more often. So
Speak of,
that's really where this comes from.
Yeah, I love that, and I feel like we're starting to see, I think, a lot more people connecting with the plant, more plant-based, or a higher balance of plants in their diet. I mean, you hear a lot of restaurants now, big restaurants, that are starting to move that way, but it really is so much better for our planet and for our bodies as well. And
And it's also like not just, eating more vegetables and going to the supermarket and buying things, because it's like I love the last Beyond Brooks event, which was last month, um, with the filmmaker and Kiss the Ground.
yeah,
And I think that like the information in that is so imperative for people to really listen to. It's very easy for all of us to latch on to catchphrases and stuff, and like, oh, this is a vegan, or this is a vegetarian or plant forward menu or restaurant or whatever, which is cool. But like, actually, where is it? How is it grown?
hmm,
How is the soil treated? I mean, like, that's the most important thing that we have on this planet. We've gone through in this country so many, like 100 years of agriculture that's just been raping and pillaging the land. So that's not really the future. And I love that film. And I'm very excited to sort of at least be a part of participating in looking at what food looks like in the future.
yeah, I had no idea that this was going to have so much connectivity between Kiss the Ground and your menu. But when I received these in my pack, and I know we'd chatted before, but I think we chatted a lot about spices and about the freshness of the season and the garden at Brooks. But when these came through, I was just so blown away by, yeah, just how flavorful, and how I almost felt nourished just reading the recipes.
But I think that like a chef or even a home cook has this opportunity um, to incorporate all these different pieces into the puzzle of what you're going to eat every day. So, it's we can take things from the garden, or we can go to the farmer's market and buy things that are just pulled from the ground, and know how, meet the farmer, talk to those people, and understand how what their belief systems are, because if they take care of their land, the chances of your food tasting better are like 1,000% better. Um,
Yeah.
Same with like sourcing spices. I mean, spice trade has always been around in our cultures for forever, and we don't grow all these kind of things. A lot of these other Indian spices don't just exist all over the place. But it's interesting because I think in both of my recipes I asked for cashews, and I'm like, but wait a minute, I'm in Oregon, I have to use hazelnuts.
Yay.
So so that's happening today. We're just going to switch it up because I'm going to talk about a couple different options with everything. Because you really have to pay attention to like where you are in the moment. The best food is always a cook that's cooking in the moment with emotions that are in the moment.
I love that you just, yeah, embraced that and added that in and threw out the cashews. I love it.
So do you want
Fantastic.
me to start making some stuff? You guys
Yeah,
want
what are we going to start with? Lead us through.
Otherwise, everybody's
I'm
going to
getting hungry just watching you there.
So I went to the garden today and I got so
Kale.
many good things. So I asked for kale, which I love. And I also found, let's see, there's some red kale in here too that I found in the garden. There's also some really good spinach.
Over here and see who else.
Um, and then I have some chards.
Nice.
I'll save my coriander for later. I got the flowering arugula here.
Ooh, nice. Can you eat the flowers?
What's that?
Can you eat the flowers, or what do the
Oh, yeah.
flowers taste like? Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah. So all of the,
Just see.
I feel like this is, again, like I love the kales and spinaches because they're super healthy. It's super good for you. But why not mix it up if you have it, if you have access to it? Go to the market. You have whatever's in the fridge. I'm going to use all these in my salad because they have so many different nutrients, and that's what this is really about. It's not about Elizabeth Falkner's recipe. It's about the nutrients that I can get from, I even mentioned on there kale or other greens such as collard greens, really good raw.
Yeah.
Often braise and cook collard greens, which I love too, but also very hardy like a kale and can be treated the same way. So hopefully you all are gonna make the salad right now. We're gonna start with just mincing up a little bit of garlic, and I don't have some serrano chilies today. I have jalapenos, which is fine, and you can also use Fresno chilies. You can use, habanero if you want to, but I'm going to use some jalapeno, and I'm also going to use some of our spices. So we've got, I've already got some toasted and ground cumin. And then let's talk about this black lime powder. So again, I think this kind of it just makes sense with where I'm at right now in Oregon, and it probably just makes sense because of the Riesling. And this is a very interesting ingredient to me because I haven't even used it a lot. It's used in a lot of Middle Eastern cooking. And I wrote on there that you could use either, I think the recipe that you all got says tamarind and black lime, but the truth is the black lime or tamarind or sumac can be used. So just to be clear, the black lime is it's a lime that's been boiled in salted water and dried until it's blackened inside, and it is tart, and it has this. It reminds me of sumac or citrus zest, or even hibiscus, but in a different way. It's got some acidity, so you wouldn't really necessarily want to use, for my recipe here, the tamarind and the black lime, but you could use, or if you had tamarind concentrate or tamarind around, you could use that. This all kind of is going into some kind of Southeast Asian flavor profile, which is why it makes sense with the Riesling so much. And then, or you could use sumac, and sumac is another herb that I think is, it's fruity. It's like hibiscus in a way. It's used in a lot of Middle Eastern cooking. But in this particular instance, that's why I wanted this particular spice to come with your kit, the black lime powder. So we're going to use that. And we're also going to use, this is a nice twist in it, a little fish sauce. I like fish sauce so much, like a lot of chefs do, but I love it in place of a lot of salt because it's got this umami bomb. So it's such a good, especially when you're talking about wine pairing and stuff, it's like, people are like, I don't know why that's so good. It's fish sauce. That's why it's so good. But you could just use salt if you don't want to use fish sauce. And then we're going to use just some fresh lime juice too. And I love texture so much. I love taking people on a roller coaster ride. So I'm using some just some mozzarella cheese or paneer cheese, which you would use in Indian cooking, and some roasted nuts. So I've said cashews. If you're in Oregon, you definitely need to use some hazelnuts. So that's kind of what's going on today.
Nice.
So I'm going to go ahead and mince up some of my garlic here. Can you guys see me? Sort of. I'll show you everything as I start to make it. But what I'm really going to do is just mince up some garlic, make a quick little vinaigrette. This is some salad I made up actually just a couple months ago. I was actually wanting to cook for some kids too. So I made this, and honestly, we all might look at this and go, I don't think kids are going to like the salad. But that's not true. These kids actually love the salad. They were just like, yeah. So if it's balanced, it's balanced. That's how you get kids to eat things, period.
I actually just had my 9-year-old stepson in the veggie garden with me this morning, and I was planting some chili plants, and he was there raiding my kale. He was just picking off leaves and eating the kale. I've never seen a kid do that before. He loved it.
It's funny though, because when you think about it, I think we all actually do crave foods that our body wants, but a lot of times we just don't pay attention to it because we're so bombarded with marketing around different things. So you're like, I'm just suddenly in the mood for a, fillet of fish at McDonald's, but it's probably not. You're probably in the mood for fish.
Thankfully, I've never had that urge, but
I don't either. But I'm just I think that a lot of times, we honestly though, since the 1950s or maybe since World War II, we've been marketed to so much about what we deserve and what we should eat and how not to spend too much energy on cooking it. That's just all gone wrong. We need to go backwards a little bit and say, your body's craving this because your body's actually needing this.
Yeah.
And so you should, and therefore you should cook that. So you guys, I love Serrano chilies. I love using Serrano chilies with the seeds in it and just mincing it up. I have jalapeno today instead. And so you just, it depends on how spicy you like things. I like the seeds of fresh chilies so much. So I'm just going to add some jalapeno in here, but I think Serrano is like the perfect for these kind of heartier greens. It's the perfect chili. So I've got about one Serrano chili's worth. I got a couple cloves of garlic minced up. I'm adding a little bit of toasted cumin. So when I toast, also by the way, totally okay to use already ground cumin, but this Wild Mountain cumin from Burlap and Barrel is so good. And so you can just dry roast it in a pan, meaning you just saute it in a dry pan with no oil, just for a couple minutes, where you start to, all of a sudden you go like, oh, it smells good, and the pan starts to feel super hot. It's ready. Take it off, grind it up. That's your fresh ground cumin. And it's so worth having fresh ground spices rather than already what's been ground, because they're volatile and their aroma just dissipates in the atmosphere as soon as you open the jar. So if it's been there for a year and you're like, doesn't smell like anything, then it's not tasty. Okay, so we got the cumin, the serrano, the garlic. We're going to add a little bit of our black lime powder. So everybody who's got that kit, great. You just put about a half a teaspoon of the black lime powder in there. If you're making this later, use some black lime or tamarind or sumac, or just some lemon zest and lemon juice. You'll give it a nice acidity to it. And then we're going to add, I've got some red boat fish sauce here. So I'm going to add a couple teaspoons of that. That's a lot of my salt that's going to be in the vinaigrette. And I'm also going to add just a little bit of water, because believe it or not, one of my favorite mentor people from a long time ago, Marion Cunningham, who used to be friends with James Beard, was like, people forget that water is actually an essential ingredient in a lot of things. And so sometimes I think, even with my pastry background too, it's like, sometimes actually it's just too concentrated. You need a little water to dilute it almost. So just a little bit of water there. And then I'm going to use some brown sugar, but you could use jaggery, which is the Indian sugar, or coconut sugar. Really nice with the flavors of everything going on here with the fish sauce and everything. And then some fresh lime juice. So just give a good, I've got like 2 tablespoons. I'm not using any vinegar in this what we call a citrusette or a vinaigrette, but there's actually no vinegar going on here. So I think this lime juice is just gonna, with the black lime, is gonna be a unique kind of flavor profile. And which it's really gonna play off super well with the wine, to be honest with you. The viscosity of the Riesling. And that direct citrus with it, I think, is what's really good. Let me grab a little whisk over here. And we're going to just put in some olive oil, or you could use, I love sunflower oil, especially if you can get like a first pressed sunflower seed oil. Kind of hard to find, but that is just a really good flavor. And it, I've only been able to find like fresh pressed sunflower oil in the Hudson Valley and in Canada and Switzerland. I never really see it in a lot of places, but I hope it's coming soon. It's really nutty, seedy.
Oh, cool.
Flavor. I'm going to add a little pinch of salt to this and a little bit of pepper. And maybe just a squeeze more of lime juice. You guys taste everything along the way, because sometimes you're like, does that need a little something else? I mean, honestly, this could handle a little bit, like a touch of red wine vinegar, just or a little rice wine vinegar. But I like this very much. I'm going to add a little bit more of the black lime powder. As you can see, I'm not measuring anything. I'm not that kind of a chef.
I love that, Elizabeth. You cook like me.
I'm such a recipe follower, so.
I know that about you, Kate.
Yes.
Which is cool, but I think the more familiar you get with everything, the freer you are with, You know what it is? It's like I really want my serrano chili, but I'm using jalapeno. That little extra kick, so I'm going to add a little bit more chili here. But that's what I'm I'm the person who wrote the recipe, and I'm still going to have to vary off of it depending on where I'm at and what's available. And that's just the way we are. That's real life. All right, so we got that, and then I'm gonna just you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take some spinach. I've got these beautiful red kale leaves, and some rainbow chard over here, and I found some bronze fennel in the garden too, which is like the very Sicilian.
I've never heard of bronze fennel.
Oh, it's such a nice flavor. And
Wow.
Yeah, it's just like kind of purple top fennel.
Mm.
Mostly you use just the fronds and not so much the bulb of it.
Okay.
And I think just a nice little combination of this and some of the green kale too, or Tuscan kale, or whatever you got. I love the heartier greens because they can actually stand up to an intense vinaigrette. And then, honestly, this whole salad is really about all of the really good vitamins and nutrients in these different greens. So I'm just going to, I said to Julienne, like if you've got Tuscan kale or black Cavallonero, black kale, I like to do, especially if I'm cooking for like 100 people, I'll do like little chiffonade, little ribbons. But this one I'm just going to kind of rough chop because I'm just making this for you guys and myself. And I'll just kind of cut down, I even like some of the stems too, so I'm going to
Texture.
You're telling me that I have to do things a certain way. Like it's texture. It's a lot of energy's gone into growing these things. There's no reason why I should just trim it and throw it away. That's kind of an old-fashioned way of looking at cooking.
I love that.
So I'm just gonna take. Hang on a second here. I'm going to. Looking for a little container. Give me a second. I'm just putting my vinaigrette in something else so that I don't feel like I have to use all of it. If I just want it kind of lightly dressed, I'm going to put what I have here in this tinier bowl. And
Elizabeth, I've heard that some people say that you should massage kale.
yes.
Is that a thing?
It is. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to put a little pinch of salt on my greens. Since it's mostly kale and chard, and I have a little bit more tender things in there, like spinach. But spinach is kind of hearty too. That's like a New Zealand kind of spinach that I have. So I'm really just kind of rubbing that salt into the greens, and that's what they mean by massaging. Because they're heartier, like you can't really do that to arugula.
Oh yeah.
Minor herbs and stuff, because it would just make them immediately wilt and start to cook. So you're just kind of rubbing a little bit of salt in there. And then we're going to take some of our vinaigrette and spoon it over the salad. And then just kind of just rub it in there. Most of us chef people like to make salads with our hands instead of tongs. It's a little more gentle, the way your hands handle leaves. But that's it. And then also always give it a taste. All right, so nice. And I'm going to taste a little wine, make sure. Somebody needs to run over here and grab one of these salads for you guys.
I'm coming. I'm on my way.
So I'm going to go ahead and plate this in a bowl, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to add a little more texture to it with the cheese and the nuts. So I'm going to just go ahead and place these in my dishes, and I'll show you here in a second. And then I use the same bowl to just take my, I've got little the little fresh mozzarella balls. If you have bigger balls, you can just chop it up. You could just leave these little, these little guys. That's what I have here. So when I can just tear them. Hello.
But I was joking.
She's actually here.
Hi.
So I'm just tearing my little bocconcini mozzarella in half, and then I'm going to take some of these filberts that Chef Norma made today with some spices on it that they serve in the restaurant here, or hazelnuts, and put that in the bowl, and then take a little bit more vinaigrette, toss that together there. This is what's right, like, yeah. So then we're just gonna take our salad and put some of the nuts and cheese on top. I mean, you guys are gonna lose your minds on this one.
Wow.
So here is our yummy Brooks Garden kale salad with black lime, vinaigrette. I can't even tell you how much good flavor is in that with the roasted hazelnuts and the little mozzarella. I think you guys are going to dig that. And then
I'm taking this back to Janie so that we
Yeah.
can try it on the way past and taste it with the wine.
And then, taste. Oh, I forgot I have a little bit of fennel. Here, I'm just going to throw a couple of those on top. I mean, that's just the thing. I'm just really cooking from what's available here and what grows here. Adding some of my traveled flavors into the mix. And also just exploring, because I haven't even used a lot of black lime powder in my life. But this is crazy good, and it's really good for you. Mm-hmm.
So delicious. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
So you make it look so easy.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah,
Yum.
but I don't have any fear of using flavors and spices, and I can also, it's so easy these days, everybody. You can research everything and then just taste it. It's always comes down to tasting it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you guys, hopefully everybody at home is having some salad and some of the Riesling, and I'll also try it with the Pinot Noir and see what you think about that. And I'm going to get going on the other dish too, if that's cool.
Sure. And I'll talk about the Pinot real quick while you're setting it
Yeah.
up. We've had this Pinot Noir before on Beyond Brooks, but it is one of my favorites. It's from the Crannell Vineyard, which is just below our estate, about 20 acres. And Dick Crannell, if you've ever been to the winery, he used to be a regular that would sit at the bar pre-COVID, back when we had bar stools every day at 3:30. But what's fascinating to me about his vineyard is that he couldn't afford to replace all of his cherries at once with vines. So he planted the vineyard over the course of 17 years, from 1984 to 2001. So you get the same clones planted by the same farmer, just different years apart. So you really get a nice variety of different Pinot Noirs off of his site. And we keep everything in small lots. And just like how Chris really pays attention with the Riesling, his goal with his single vineyard Pinot Noirs is to pay homage to that grower for what they decided to plant. So this is a pretty even blend across all the clones that are on Crannell's vineyard, but then it also does take into account the original plantings from the 80s all the way through up to the vines that were planted in 2001. It's always got that bright red fruit like you get from the Eola Amity Hills and our volcanic soils here. It's delicious.
So delicious.
And I love the dish that we have has so much texture and so much concentration and flavor. And I feel like when I tasted the Riesling, it just enhanced all of that flavor and texture. And I just feel like the way that Chris and Brooks make their wines with really minimal intervention and really not fining or filtering or removing any of that nourishment in the wine, that you feel it so much more when you're drinking it as well. And it can stand up to these really, you know, exotic, substantial dishes as well, because there's a lot of flavor in that salad.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much that the Riesling complements in that salad as well. And I really think that's, you know, a testament to the farming and to the winemaking approach here at Brooks as well.
Both of the wines actually pair really, really well with it, but kind of highlight different components.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like the fish sauce and the Pinot Noir really complement each other, and you definitely get the lime and the black lime vinaigrette with the Riesling. It's delicious, both of them.
Yeah, that is a great call. The umami, and I always find in the Pinot Noirs from the Eola Amity Hills, but specifically from Brooks as well, this sort of smoked tea leaf, and also like a kelpie iodine character that I think comes from like the winds and the sea spray winds that come down the Van Duzer corridor. And so I feel like that flavor is really being enhanced by the fish sauce in the salad as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good point, because there's a different kind of there's the minerality, but there's the salinity also in these wines, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Part of the balance.
Yeah.
And so I agree. I think there's something, I think that's a really good call out, like the kelp kind of notes in the wine, going so well with fish sauce. Love that so much. I'm just mincing up some garlic and ginger and some more jalapeno or serrano for my kidgeri. So we're going to move on to some kidgeri next. And this is like one of those dishes that I feel like I'm actually just enamored with. It's an old Ayurvedic Indian kind of dish that's part of a lot of people's kind of cleanses. So like, you know, you want to rebalance in life. Kidgeri is like the thing that you should eat, and you should go through, you know, a week, 3 days to 10 days of just trying to just eat kidgeri, because it's, the truth of it is, like, humans have existed for a long time eating more legumes and rice dishes everywhere in the world as the prime source of nutrients. So in this case, like, you might, you know, you want, kidgeri has this, you know, again, this Ayurvedic kind of history, but it's, and like beans and rice, not all legumes, not all beans are easy for humans to digest, but lentils are, especially mung beans. And like, I can't tell you how many times I go to acupuncturists and they're like, you run really hot. And I'm like, well, yeah, type A personality. So, so they're like, you need to eat mung beans all the time. So, and they just mung beans boiled in water. I'm like, well, that's boring. But so kidgeri is like a perfect answer for me, because it's like the combination of rice and this fabulous little bean, or this little pea called a mung bean. And if you're not familiar with mung dal or mung beans, it's like, looks like little teeny green black-eyed peas. Mm-hmm. And we gave some to you in the kit that has some of the spices already mixed into it. So we've got brown mustard seeds, cumin, coriander seeds, fennel seed. Fennel is something I'm adding to it, because usually kidgeri doesn't. There's a million different versions of it, but sometimes it's really basic. And I've been adding like just other Indian spices that I really just love. So I've also got the cardamom, which I just love cardamom. It's like one of my favorite spices. And then fenugreek leaves, which is what's super aromatic. So you're smelling the cardamom and the fenugreek. And that's interesting in a lot of Indian cooking. So I'm going to start with heating up a hold. Maybe. I'm going to move to a different burner now. It's just like a cooking competition show. Maybe. There we go. All right. So I'm just gonna start getting a bigger pot heating up here, and you don't have to do this, but it might be. I soaked my basmati rice and the beans with the spices just in a little water. I've only been talking for like 30 minutes, so they've just been soaking in a little bit of water. It just helps expedite the cooking. You don't have to do that. You can do it from scratch, like we talked about. Like I talked about in the recipe. So I'm going to start with a little bit of ghee, which is a Indian clarified butter, or coconut oil, which is what I'm using today. And put that about a tablespoon in my pot. You need some kind of fat. So it could also just be canola oil if that's what you have, or olive oil, but I like a little bit, I like a fat that can handle a little more heat up front. So coconut oil is good for that, or especially like ghee. And then, so we've already got some of the spices in the rice mixture, but we also have this minced up ginger, garlic, and for me, jalapeno, but maybe for you, serrano. And I just want to show you something really quick too. In case you guys don't know, the best way to peel ginger, fresh ginger, is not with a knife or a vegetable peeler. It's with a spoon. So I learned this a long time ago, but you just take a spoon. It's so easy to peel just the skin off, because if you use a knife or a vegetable peeler, you're often just taking off too much of the rhizome itself or the root. And this just takes the skin off. That's how you peel ginger.
Nice.
Best way to peel ginger. All right, so we've got that heating. We're going to use a little bit of, I wrote on the recipe Kashmiri, which is an Indian chili, or you can use cayenne. I think most people have cayenne. Something with some spice. We're going to use the amazing, I don't know if you guys have smelled your turmeric from Burlap and Barrel, but this is just, turmeric is the bomb. I think my teeth are turning yellow because I've been eating so much of it. But it's so good for you, anti-inflammatory. I think I had a turmeric latte the other day. It's quite delicious too. And it honestly just makes me feel good. And then, we have some cilantro, otherwise known as coriander in a lot of other countries. And most of us are really familiar with using just the leaves in this country. But the truth is, in most countries in Southeast Asia, they use more stems. So the stem has again, it comes back to like the energy from the planet. I don't know why we just taught to throw away these stems all the time of everything, because the stems actually have a lot of flavor. So I'm just going to mince up some of those. I'm going to use the leaves for later, but I actually want the flavor from the stems, which is different than the flavor of the leaves. And that's true of every plant. You have all these different flavors. You might as well, it's not, any plant that's edible, the entire plant is edible.
Are their stems spicier or earthier than the leaf?
It's a more concentrated flavor. It's
Okay.
like as the plant, like the roots are very concentrated flavor. You can use, I love parsley root.
Oh.
It's such a nice flavor of parsley, but it's so different. And
Yeah.
Cilantro root, sometimes you can buy cilantro at the farmer's market with the roots. You shouldn't just chuck those. You should throw them into the mix and see, wow, I'm going to get lots of, we're always talking as chefs like layers of flavor. Well, there's a really good example of how to use layers. Use the roots to cook, they're going to take a little bit longer to cook than a leaf. But as the plant grows out, it's more subtle as it's branching out. But the concentration is down here in the base of it. So the stems are delicious, and they have another texture. We're going to cook it all into it, but it's just like building layers. It's like building.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add all of this stuff. I've got the stems, the ginger, the garlic, and my chilies. And I'm just going to It's gonna start to smell really good in your kitchen. We're also gonna use a few bay leaves. Now we're gonna have to remove those before we eat the dish because you don't want to eat bay leaves, but they have a great perfume. So I'm just throwing a couple of those in there. And then I'm actually gonna add my, I just want to, you don't have to like saute the ginger and garlic forever because it's really gonna kind of braise quickly into this mixture. But I'm gonna add my mung beans and basmati rice with those other spices that are in there. It's already got the cardamom. It's already got I can't remember all the things. Fenugreek, fennel seeds, cumin seeds. I'm personally just gonna add a little bit more of this cumin because this wild mountain cumin from burlap is. If you guys look at it and compare it to any other cumin you might have around, it's tiny. It's a wild cumin. So I just think this is like such an amazing flavor. There's so many varietals of everything in the world. There's varietals of cumin too. It's not like, oh, there's one kind of cumin. There's one kind of cilantro. Actually, there's tons. It's so crazy.
And then I guess where they're grown as well, depending on the elevation or the coolness, heat of the climate.
Just like grapes.
Just like grapes.
Yep, totally. I'm going to add a little bit of fenugreek turmeric to this too. So I'll add turmeric pretty early on in a lot of my stews and recipes, and then I might add some later just to kind of reinforce the flavor. So as it's just it's a spice that's been ground down. I'm adding it. It's stewing in it. It's cooking down. It's losing some of its aroma. So I might reinforce that later, and that could happen in a lot of different ways. But that's why we do that. Okay, so that's gonna take. I'm gonna have to move some burners around here, but that's gonna take about 20 minutes to cook. I have it on a back burner right now, and I'd like to bring it up to something a little bit hotter. So I'm gonna move it over here. Stove. Let's see. I'm going to make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper. I don't necessarily want to salt it right now because, like a lot of legumes, I don't really want to. The rice and the lentils will do better cooking without adding salt until later, just to season it. They do better without being in salty water. I think I said 4 cups of water. I had a little bit that my lentils and rice were sitting in. You can always, bring it to a boil. If it starts to dehydrate, you can always add more water. But we're going to just let that kind of simmer here for a little bit. And make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, I do have some grated carrot that I'm going to add. I'm going to add it closer to the end. I'm not going to add it yet. But this is a really open-minded recipe. You can certainly add other things. I actually found some pea tendrils out in the garden. And I thought, oh, that would be delicious with all of this mixture. It's very springtime. I found the pea. You can certainly add other greens. You could add more. You could add spinach to this. I'm adding carrot, but I thought, you know what? I'll just mince up some of this or kind of throw it in at the last minute without really cooking it down, just to add some green to it. And I've got like flowering arugula, which I think will be really. I can garnish it and make it look very Michelin starred, just like that, just by adding arugula flowers. And then we're going to use cashews on this one because I have some toasted cashews to go with it. But I don't know about you guys at home, but if you're starting to get this stuff simmering, it probably already smells really good. And I just think like, wow, all the Indian spices with the wines are so perfect. I was like, even though I'm in this region and it's not, we don't grow all these kind of spices, it really goes well with these wines.
It's so funny because I often get in Pinot Noir, especially a lot of Indian spices and like rainforest, sort of eastern woods smells. That some of these spices just they completely align with the Pinot Noir.
Yeah. Kind of makes me wonder, should we be growing some of these spices here?
Yeah.
You know, like some of them can't grow here because it's a different kind of,
Too cold or,
yeah.
yeah.
But I don't know. You guys there's a lot of stuff in the garden here, so.
Well, and I wonder if something like,
But now I want to grow. I've been growing fenugreek in Southern California, so I have some fresh fenugreek leaves
wow.
just from seed, and
Huh.
I've never tried to grow cumin, but I'm like, why have I not done that? I grow cilantro, I grow basil,
Yeah.
lemongrass.
Yeah, I just planted some lemongrass as well, and there are other things that I just really discovered up here this year recently as well, like lovage.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, who knew? I didn't know, and it grows wild. And I've got lemon verbena growing wild, and oregano growing wild, and there's just so many. Yeah, I love the lovage because it has that aromatic punch and kick as well, but it's not like as punchy as celery.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot that grows here that I went and bought a foraging Pacific Northwest foods book because I was just so blown away by what was around us that we can actually consume, and yeah, there's so much aromatics. But I was just thinking as well about the black lime. I had the other day lime quarts that grow here. And so I thought maybe we could dehydrate some of those or oxidize some of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or kumquats.
That's the thing. It's like we're all kind of stuck in like sometimes like this is what culture of people has grown in this region for some time, but it hasn't been forever necessarily.
Right.
And like the climates are moving, changing, evolving.
Sure. Yeah.
And so sometimes you have to kind of look at like, wait, so like we grow, like I love Brooks so much just because it's so clearly this environment that reminds me of Switzerland and Austria and Germany. And so Riesling totally makes sense in this part of the planet. And like, so when people are growing, Chardonnay grapes up here, I'm like, well, does that really make sense? Or like, I'm always looking at that. I'm always like, wow, in Mexico, I feel like we should be growing more other Mediterranean grapes, more Greek and Southern grapes.
Yeah, some Zena Mavro or and Sonica. Yeah, Aciertico in Mexico would be fantastic.
I think so. And it's like, I remember going to Greece. Janie, you'll like this because I know you're dreaming about the boat, but I went to Greece when I was in college also. And I remember going to Santorini and seeing so many grapes just growing on the ground, not on trellises or not on in vine, like they're just on the ground. And this was a long time ago, so this is like 1986, and I remember like tasting some of those crazy Retsina wines from back then, which I personally loved because I love that I love that pine flavor that's in the way they store the wine in pine, and I love mastica or mastic. That's in a lot. It's a sap from a pistachio-related tree that's in a lot of confections and toothpaste and all kinds of stuff in the Mediterranean. And I think like that was such a cool way of growing grapes. Like we've gotten into so much more sophisticated library wines. I'm from California, so I can talk about Northern California, Cabernets and Chardonnays and stuff. But I really like a lot of different wine growing processes and winemaking processes from history over in different countries too.
Yeah, and it's fun to go to these countries and think about how, why this is a tradition or why they're grown this way as well. And actually, and when you're standing in Santorini and you're feeling that wind coming off the ocean, I'm thinking, I'm not putting trellised vines up here. It's going to be like a sail just, taking off. So those really low vines make a lot of sense. And then I actually had this thought when I was driving to Brooks this morning. I was driving up past the Cranel Vineyard, and as you go from the Crannel Vineyard into Brooks, they're both very old vineyards, but the vine height changes so drastically. And I was thinking, I wonder if that's because the wind is so strong that comes over the top of the hill here, that it's better to have lower vines, towards the top of the hill where the wind is really racing down the slope. And so I was mulling that over this morning as I pulled up. So yeah, it's funny that you brought up the Santorini vines.
Yeah, because I never even thought about the wind and all of that stuff going on. But of course, all the people have thought about that, depending on where you are.
Yeah, and the flavors that the wind brings out in the grapes as well. The grapes from Eola Amity in vineyards that are impacted by the winds are much tinier and they're more concentrated. They have thicker skins, so they have more anthocyanins and higher tannins. But they also have deeper concentrations of fruit flavors and also deeper acidity as well. And so they're completely different to, the wines that are grown in, say, Yamhill, Carlton, AVA. And then in Pinot Noir as well, you tend to get these like amino-like compounds and flavors coming out in the Pinot Noirs because of some of the wind stress.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really makes them
cool.
Food friendly.
I mean, it just kind of comes back to that film from last month, Kiss the Ground. It's like there's so much going on here that if we just paid attention, I mean, I know that farmers pay attention to everything that's going on, but somehow we've got to communicate that to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do that through some of these recipes, which is, oftentimes part of like where you are, the terroir, everything, and oftentimes a bit of poetry, like a license in poetry.
Yes. I love that. Yeah. Poetry of the place. That's very...
So I'm going to go ahead and add my carrots to this mixture now. You don't have to use carrots. You can just eat it as it is. I'm just adding a little bit of that. I'm adding some cayenne to give it a little more kick. I love Kashmiri, another chili from India as an alternative. There's lots of good hot chilies out there, so you don't have to, how we're all like that. We're all like territorial. You say, oh, you cannot make this sauce if you don't have these guajillo chilies, or you don't have this chili, but they're substitutable. They're always going to change something. It may not be like authentically what you tasted in Istanbul or whatever, but they're possible. They are all possibilities. It's all good.
Well, and to your point earlier as well, I mean, the spice trade was, something that was, one of the most highly prized, currencies, and it just makes so much sense that, some of these spices weren't naturally in that place. They were traded and then became home in this place and maybe became better in that place.
Right, or people just sort of like figured out different recipes, and that's true of all history of time. I mean, like, cardamom doesn't grow in Scandinavia or in Germany, but there's cardamom in a lot of biscuits and cookies.
Yeah, and the bread, yeah.
Yep. I picked off some of my arugula flowers. I'm going to garnish all of this. I've got some of the pea flowers too. So pretty.
Oh, nice. They're beautiful.
Yeah, so we'll save that for making it look really special. Does anybody have is there any chat stuff? Let me see.
This smells so good.
Oh, good. Oh no, our carrots just went in. That's okay.
I gave some suggestions for the black lime, but maybe you can throw in some other suggestions for how to use the black lime as well, Elizabeth.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I think it would just be really good on fish or lamb, chicken. I mean, it's just I would use it kind of like sumac. I think that's probably. I mean, I love your idea about it being on popcorn. I think putting it into into the fat, like into a vinaigrette, but also like if you heated up some butter, or I like the idea of a black lime beurre blanc,
Yeah.
or like a black lime béarnaise. I'm probably going to make that on my competition show soon because that just sounds like a good sound bite.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Black lime béarnaise. That's good. So,
Elizabeth, there's a question. Lid or no lid as you simmer?
I had the lid on for a little bit because I want to keep some of the moisture in there.
Okay.
If you want to just lock in everything, it's not like a pressure cooker, but you're sealing in all of that moisture and it's kind of recirculating. That'll help expedite the cooking.
Okay. And then there's a question from Dave and Janelle. Hey, Dave and Janelle, good to see you here. What is a go-to meal for you? Specifically for Elizabeth.
Go-to meal. Wow, it really depends on. I cook so much, you guys at home. I'm one of those chefs that I know a lot of chefs who don't like to cook at home, but I'm somebody who has always liked to cook. If I'm in the mood for something, I feel like I should make it. And I do go out too, but especially after this year, I'm like, wow, going to a restaurant is such a treat.
Yes.
But it depends on the time of day too. I do love this kind of kitchery stuff is a really simple, straightforward kind of dish any time of day. I've been making a lot of steel cut oats with some of the same flavors, so I'll have something with turmeric and ginger for breakfast, and so and it's kind of a midday thing. I don't really want breakfast early in the morning, but after a workout, I feel like a little. I love a savory oatmeal concept. I just think I love taking anything that's mundane and making it amazing. But also I'm a total pizza fanatic and pasta fanatic. And, so I love making whatever's, I don't know. Yeah, those are my go-to things. Also make bialys. I love spirulina. I think spirulina is a really cool ingredient, and I love trying to be inventive with it. And salads. I just think salad is so underrated sometimes. It's it doesn't have to have a creamy balsamic or ranch dressing on it, but it's just greens. They have so much nutrients for you, and just having them in inventive ways is where it's at.
Yeah, that salad is so flavorful and so nourishing. Yeah. Yeah. Someone's having a second helping of the salad. That's what they're saying.
Also, I do love a lot of seafood. So I love, and I love so many different techniques of cooking fish or curing fish.
Oh yeah. Well, and a lot of these spices would go so well with the fish as well. I love that idea.
Also, this kitchery, by the way, is a really good base for, it can be good by itself. I like it with coconut yogurt, but I also love it with yogurt or kefir. And today I'm using buttermilk instead because that's what we have here. And I'm I love buttermilk actually. And I feel like America's perception of buttermilk is only in pancakes right now. And it's hardly used in anything else. And which is unfortunate because it's a really good product. I don't know about you guys, but this my kitchery smells so good right now. Everything's being cooked. I'm gonna add a little salt because it's starting to get al dente. I got a little bit of. I got some of my seeds in there, which I'm really. By the way, I put in whole fennel and coriander seeds into that mixture because sometimes you'll get a little pop of it. You won't be oh, I feel like a seed in my mouth, but you'll be wow, I just got a burst of something. And I really love that in food. I love having a little almost like a pop rock. Mm-hmm. Oh, something just wild just happened here. And it was not in every bite, but it was enough to linger for a little bit.
Yeah. I love that idea. Yeah, you don't have to have a balanced bite every time. That's that's kind of boring actually when
Right,
you think about it.
I really want more of a roller coaster ride. So hopefully your stew or kitchery is starting to look something like that.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah, it smells so good. And then it's turning bright yellow from the turmeric. A little more salt.
Would you ever use fish sauce in the kitchery?
I feel like the fish sauce might make it a little too muddy.
Okay.
Because we've got really a lot of different spices.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not opposed to it because I think it does. I think if I was going to throw coconut milk in it, I might want the fish sauce.
Oh, yeah.
But right now it's kind of got more. It's definitely more. It's got a, especially because there's fennel seed in there too.
Yeah.
It's got sort of a. It's going one direction, and I feel like the fish sauce might make it a little bit. I don't know. I love fish sauce and everything. I've made a tiramisu with fish sauce before, so.
That's amazing.
Did I ask for this? I'm actually gonna add a little bit of lime juice at the end.
Elizabeth, we've got a good question here from Mark, who asked, we went to some specialty markets for these ingredients. 4 of the ingredients are brand new to them. Any off-the-shelf items that they should consider having on hand? There's such a wild assortment of desserts, especially, and they hardly know where to start sometimes. It's a great question.
Oh yeah. Let's see. So I honestly think like well, first of all, turmeric is just so good for you. You should have that for sure around. There's so many different kinds of fish sauces in the world. I feel like fish sauce is an essential ingredient today. An Italian fish sauce is very different than Asian fish sauce. And then like oyster sauce is different than fish sauce too. Usually has some sugar in it. And we barely get anything in supermarkets in the United States compared to like you gotta go out of the way and go to the ethnic markets because if you go to an Indian market or a Thai market, like I live close to Los Feliz in LA, and so the amount of Thai ingredients there is just it's so exciting after having been to Thailand for the first time in 2019 and seeing like 20 different kinds of fish sauce. I'm like, oh wow, I don't know.
Yeah.
And let's see. I feel like having really good chilies is a really good idea, depending on where you live. Like we have so many amazing chilies coming from the Southwest and Mexico into the West. And I'm fanatical about habaneros and serranos and like all the chilies you can grow too. Like I think Untitled chilies.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, you can take fresh chilies and freeze them and use them throughout the year. So like I love buying like a whole basket of red Thai chilies. In New York, I 1 week out of the summer, there would be somebody who grew Thai chilies and they'd sell like a whole basket for like $2 because people just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just freeze those and use them all year, and it's such a fruity spicy, but just delicious. I feel like chilies are like an essential ingredient.
The burlap and barrel spices were a great find. And like I live in a small community, like you're in LA and New York and you have access to all these specialty markets. Are there other online sites
That's true.
that would have specialty items?
The truth is too, like so many more people are doing more commerce online.
Yeah.
So you can find a lot of good stuff out there. Like don't just pull up the first thing that comes up, because those people are paying for that shelf space, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like if I feel like there's just so much more traffic in that e-commerce world. that you can find a lot of cool stuff out there.
On Amazon.
But just dive a little bit deeper. Go to the second page.
Yeah.
But even Amazon,
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff that we supplied in those packages, Amazon had all sorts of organic, mung beans and, most of the stuff needed, which is incredible. I thought I never would have considered the source.
Okay, so here's just a note, like make sure if you put in 2 bay leaves or 3 bay leaves, just make sure and pull those out. Because you don't want somebody to accidentally try to eat that because we can't eat these. So just pull those out. It's already put its aroma in there. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually just going to stick my pea tendrils, this is just me today, right on top of my kidgery. I already put a little salt in there, by the way, so I'm going to taste it at the end, but I tasted it a couple times and put a little more salt in it. I'm kind of just steaming those pea tendrils on top of the mixture. And I've got cashews ready to go. I've got some buttermilk.
Oh, Corby and Marie just added fresh fava beans to theirs. I'm a little jealous. I love fava beans.
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
To pick up the desk, Heidi about this desk here. I purchased it.
Okay, somebody's picking up a desk.
Yeah, it's right. It's on the front desk. It's on the front porch. They can take
Okay,
it.
cool.
And Joanna and Kyle and Iris have asked, my mung beans are still hard. Should I keep cooking?
Oh yeah, just add a little more water, let them cook until they're, so they're not too crunchy.
Oh, and I missed this question as well from Jody. Do you use Asian or Italian fish sauce? And what would you where would you use Italian instead of Asian fish sauce?
I mean, for me, they're both very interchangeable.
Okay.
It's, people are going to be very particular depending on the pride and where they come from. Colatura does taste different than like red boat fish sauce or squid fish sauce from Thailand. Sometimes, actually in Thailand, I had a fish sauce at a restaurant outside of Bangkok that had beetles, not just anchovies. Because, what happens is fish sauce comes from the curing of anchovies, and the runoff is what is fish sauce. So, obviously, anchovies eat different things in different seas, and they're just in completely different environments. So, if they're in, Sicily, they're going to taste really different than the ones in Thailand or Vietnam. And so I had one that had beetles also from the runoff, and I'm like, is that because the beetles are eating what's happening there?
Yeah, is it like lice on the fish or
It's not a gross thing. Like we have this really strange feeling in America. This is the weirdest country because we are the weirdos that are freaked out by insects.
Yeah.
And the truth is people eat insects in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And insects are super high in protein. I've had a lot of crickets in Mexico mostly, and also in Asia. And, I don't love every bug I've eaten because I'm also a little bit still grossed out because of how I've been brought up. But the truth is, sometimes, it's just, it's kind of silly because we, eat, chicken wings that are just completely transformed into some, fried or grilled with a lot of sweet, spicy sauce on it. Well, so people do that to bugs too, and it's not any weirder than just having chicken wings. And this obsession that we have with a few animals is very strange. That's actually the weirdest part because the truth is there's so much stuff out there, and it's part of this whole bigger system. And if we were really hungry, we would eat those things. So we just gone through a couple 100 years of not being. I mean, not even that long, because it wasn't even that long ago that people ate turtles and squirrels all over America, and a lot more venison and rabbits and stuff like that. So we've just gotten into this we only eat beef, poultry, and our beef chickens. I mean, tell me some kids that want duck because I think duck is such a great thing. I think venison is such a great thing, and. I'm going to bounce all over the place because I think lobsters are like bugs. They're just water bugs. They're just water bugs. So the reason, well, I don't know why we don't eat more stuff like that. I don't know why we don't eat more rattlesnake. Rattlesnake is actually very tasty.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
That's really
So-
cool.
Just putting it out there.
I love it.
So I'm going to go ahead and plate some of this kidgeri. I'm going to show you guys a nice plate. So I'm going to put some of the mung beans, rice, the carrots are just adding a little color, and they're good for you. And then some of these pea tendrils. Are you going to come over for this one too?
I am. I'm coming to get a plate for Janie and I.
And I'm going
We're
to put
sharing again.
a couple of flowers on here, and some cashews. And then I'm just going to actually put this buttermilk around the outside because I think that's what I got instead of yogurt. Let me just shake this up a little bit. And buttermilk is just great by itself too. So it's almost like a good sauce for this. I'm going to just lean this down so you can see how
Oh, beautiful.
it's pretty, huh?
Hmm.
And I think all these spices are going to be so good with these wines. And it's fun too when you pour something like a liquid yogurt or buttermilk. It starts to immediately pick up the turmeric, so it already looks like something that you might see in a nice restaurant too.
Oh man, it smells good in here.
Hi.
Hi.
Here, I'm gonna give you
Wow, that looks amazing. I need a picture. Thank you. Yes. Perfect. Wow.
those.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Janie, I'm coming back.
I'm here. I'm waiting.
So I'll make one for myself so I can try it with you guys. Is everybody feeling good about their kidgeri? It's such a good dish. It's good at like any time of day. I want this. When I was living in New York, I did make this a lot in the wintertime because it's kind of like such a good wintertime dish. But it honestly is really good any time of year. And I spent so much of my life in Northern California, so I feel like this is a super appropriate dish for the Northwest. But honestly, now I live in LA, and I want it. Also, we have cool mornings and warmer days, but it's one of those. It gives me a lot of energy.
Beautiful.
So beautiful.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna try it with some wine.
Wow.
Mm.
I could eat that all the time.
Wow.
Hey, Mark Joseph, put that lid on that rice and let it steam a little bit in itself, so that it can
Need more in your glass.
cook the rice and the lentils well.
So I really want to try the Riesling with that.
Oh my goodness, it's so amazing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, so if you're cooking it from scratch, like I told you in the recipe, it's going to take a good 20 minutes to kind of get everything tender. Make sure you just keep, add enough water so that it's stewing in it and not dehydrating too much. Almost like risotto. Like if it gets too dry, just add a little more liquid. I don't know which wine I like better with it.
Oh, the Riesling is so good with it. The ginger and the Riesling just pop
Yeah.
together.
So fun. Kind of like that buttermilk. I'm going to rethink my buttermilk game.
I didn't even need to have a second bite. The flavors just linger.
The flavors are
Yeah.
amazing. That ginger. Okay.
I think I forgot to add a little bit of lime juice on top of you guys, but probably could use a little squeeze of lime juice just to perk it up at the end. Just right before you serve it. Yeah. I didn't add any sugar either. Sometimes people, I think, feel like a lot of us would have a tendency because of how much sugar we have in this country to put a bit of sugar in it, but you don't. It doesn't need it.
Mm. Sorry, I'm eating and
In the
tasting.
wine,
Oh my goodness.
it's in the residual sugar of this wine.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
perfect.
Yeah,
Mm.
I'm gonna throw some of those fennel fronds on here too. Forgot about that. That bronze fennel. But this is. If you just had a little bit of that in the morning, I love a savory breakfast too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I mean,
I love the idea.
somebody who's cooked a lot of sweets, it's not. I don't recommend that lifestyle for anybody.
Lifestyle.
Having too many sweets in the morning, like a sweet breakfast, it's just not a sustainable model. I think it's better for people to have something that's super satisfying and bright and has so much good stuff for you in it. Like this is good for you. If you ate Kidgery twice a day for a week, it would just change your whole body's metabolism.
Mm. Mm. I'm adding it. Clearly, I need this in my life.
Yeah, totally. And it is delicious with both wines.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I just got one of those big pops, the pop rocks.
Oh, yeah, good. Well, somebody asked me, Joanna and Kyle and Iris, how much salt. And I am using kosher salt, Diamond Crystal kosher salt, not to be confused with like Morton kosher salt. Really different sodium levels in those two different salts. I've done a lot of Zoom cooking over the last year. And when I first moved back to LA, I could only find Morton salt. It was like there was like a run on toilet paper, flour, and salt. And, and so I was using Morton, and then I kept over seasoning everything, and I was like, oh my god, everything I make is so salty. I'm like turning into Eat, Drink, Man, Woman or something like that. And but then turns out it was like the Morton kosher salt is 100% saltier than Diamond Crystal kosher salt.
Interesting.
And so we all think that salt might be interchangeable, but in fact it has different sodium levels and other minerals. Himalayan salt, totally different. You know, the Malden salt is a totally different structure. Same with kosher, totally different structure than like iodized salt. So this is Diamond Crystal kosher salt, and I added probably. I mean, I like to teach people to season to taste because it's just, I probably put in that batch probably a good 2 teaspoons in the mixture. It's not over salty.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
But
I'm also like my cashews they're roasted with salt, so you have to
salt
pay
there.
attention to all those different things that you might be throwing into the mix.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
This is so delicious, and I feel so nourished after. There was such a big I don't know, prelude to it as well, because the second that I walked in an hour or so, 2 hours ago now, the smells of the spices that then when I just walked back in, how they've all just come together and they're so warm, and the whole house just smells amazing, and it's like going to a spa for my belly.
Totally. And I thought that the salad, I really did intentionally think that the salad would be like, as soon as I start having flavors like that, I want something like chutney. And so, you know, with the high acidity and spice and the sweetness from a chutney. And, but I thought the salad would play that role today. And another thing that I think would be a really great addition to that salad is instead of the sugar or on top of it, you could put some dried dates. And I think that's where it would like, oh wow, this tastes like a chutney salad with my Kidgery, and it's such a, you know, just a good mixture.
So delicious.
Amazing. Elizabeth, when you've been in restaurants, how do you approach building a wine list to go with your dishes? Is it an important consideration, or yeah, how I'd love your thoughts on how you
Yes.
approach that as a chef.
So a couple things. I've been a part of opening 11 restaurants in my restaurant career, and I oftentimes am talking to other chefs and people about certain wine lists and trying different things to go with different kinds of food. Two different things I want to. So don't let me forget about talking about the restaurant Cote in New York City. That's a Korean
Yeah.
restaurant that has a lot of Swiss wines, which is really interesting, right? It's like a anyway. But in the past, I've always had a wine director or sommelier that I've worked with, and I just love this conversation. I love talking about. I've been criticized for having very esoteric wine lists in the past in San Francisco. I've had a wine director that I worked with for many years, John Mark, and we didn't want to give people exactly what they wanted. That was the point of the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, you're not going to come here and have what you think you're going to have, and you're not going to have wine that you think you want to have. We're going to educate you and help you go along this path that tells you, actually, this is why this is so good. And so I'm part of definitely a wave of people. Like, what comes to mind is like Charles Fan at Slide a Door. And we think a lot alike about like, hey, I make this kind of food and this is what goes with it. You cannot just be a bratty customer and come in and be like, can I have a glass of Chardonnay or a Cabernet Sauvignon? Not here. Because that does not go with our food. So, yeah, we're kind of been assholes like that in the past. But honestly, that's like, it's just, I'm really so focused on what I think really plays well together. And when you sit down, I really want you to have an adventure and not just because it's not that we have this conversation right in hospitality where the customer is always right, but it's not true. We know that the customer actually isn't always right, and we need to help you. So that's my bougie way of saying I really, really spend a lot of time thinking about this stuff with people who are like-minded, and I'm excited about it. I'm just genuinely like, it's just it is the joie de vivre. It's like there's so much more information going on than just sort of like, hey, I know what to do. It's like, maybe not always, we don't. And I'm open-minded too. Like, I had to learn Italian and French languages so that I could pronounce things correctly.
Yeah.
And also, like, I went to China for the first time in 2019 for a month. I didn't know anything about Chinese food, really. I mean, I only know American Chinese, and I barely could find my way through that menu unless I was with somebody who is from Chinese descent or knows a lot more. And I just had to, like, I just got so educated, like, just from, tasting and being in the area, or in the whole country. So I want to encourage people to always be open-minded and going into food and wine and cultures just to be humble and learn.
Yeah.
And present in the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love I mean, when I taste your food, and you're clearly so excited about food and the journey that you're taking people on, and it gets me excited about thinking about wines and where the wines come from and how the wines are made and the integrity of what's going into the glass and how manipulated that is or how nourishing that is. And then drinking makgeolli and these other beverages, like these crossovers into other beverages, or I don't meta beverages almost, making an appearance on wine lists, like like cider and wine fermentations together, because that's what grows here on these fruits, like those kind of that's what your food is doing to me right now, and it's an amazing journey. So thank you, I love it.
So cool. Wait, I've not had any cider wine fermentations together, but that's very cool. I could see like cherry. I mean, you know, people have done that obviously in the past, and yeah, it's a lot. Also, I just need to talk to somebody here, anybody around, about the possibilities with hazelnuts,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot that needs to happen. Like I was like making a cappuccino at the bar here, and I was like, does anybody have any hazelnut milk? Does that even exist? Like, why don't we have hazelnut milk from Oregon? That needs to happen.
Yeah.
And hazelnut praline paste, and
Yeah.
I've never seen.
Yeah.
needs to happen.
Butter and yeah.
Norma and I are going to get on that. Chef Norma and I are going to get on that.
Yeah, talk to her about it tonight.
Okay. Yeah, after her wedding. So
Great.
fun.
Are there more questions? I can't read that far.
Fresh coconut shredded with Greek yogurt and cashews. Super nice. I love that everyone's, you know, really embraced what your ethos and philosophy, Elizabeth, of just, you know, throwing in what they have in the fridge and and going with choose their own adventure. So good.
Oh, I love that too. Yeah. Oh yeah, fresh coconut or coconut milk in the mixture, or Greek yogurt, and I'm like obsessed with this. What feels like a very California thing. I'm not sure if it's even available up here. This coconut yogurt.
Oh my goodness! I just had that the other day. It was so good.
Oh my god. The coconut cult.
Yes.
Is that what you had? It's
Yeah.
it's super expensive.
Yeah.
It's like $10 for a little jar of yogurt, but
Yeah.
it's made from like Thai coconuts, and oh my, it's one of the best things I've ever had in my life from, you know, like a packaged product. And a little bit goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
So like I kind of savor it. You know, it's like, oh well, I'm going to spend that much on chocolate, so why wouldn't I spend that on yogurt or wine or whatever? And but it's got all the probiotics, and it's just got this acidity, and this, it's just so 100% coconut.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And like I love that yogurt with kitchery. Ridiculous.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I need to make that.
Mhm.
Seeing a whole lot more kitchery in my life. This is
Mhm.
fantastic. Thank you.
It's been amazing.
Cool.
It's been amazing.
Mm-hmm. Great, great
Yeah,
suggestion.
thank you guys so much. This is, I mean, it's just, honestly, it's just such a pleasure to like travel and do events like I've been doing for the last, I don't know, a long time, actually. Even outside of restaurants. It's like, it's just, like I was flying into Portland yesterday and looking at the landscape. It was like, I felt like I was like a 5-year-old kid flying for the first time. I was like, oh my God, it's just amazing that we can fly. It's amazing that I'm on a plane. It's amazing to look out the window and take pictures. And it's so green in Oregon. It's just like, wow, it's just patches of so many different kinds of shades of green. And it's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved when you were coming up with the recipes and we talked a couple months ago and you said, are the cherries going to be ready? Because the last time you were here, it was high cherry season.
I know. I just woke up every morning and went for a run and then stopped and just ate cherries off the trees.
That's amazing.
A little too early right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just got some hood strawberries starting to pop up. But yeah, a little bit early for cherries. But yeah, it's so true. I read this little article this morning while I was drinking my coffee, and it was talking about, you know, we're very I guess well read at the moment on our like gut microbiome, you know, and those like networks in our gut. And then someone had written an article on the social biome and what COVID had done to our social biome, and how we're now like kind of rethinking all of our relationships and our connections. And I thought that was.
Oh, will you send that to me? Because I really want to read about that.
Yeah, I will send it to you.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah.
It's true. We're just other, you know, organisms here. So
exactly.
Why wouldn't we respond in the same way, in similar ways to other organisms?
Yeah, when we're starved of that or stuck with just one person. And I love my husband, but I'm
the perspectives that COVID has brought us. They've been very insightful, right? And just a reminder, I mean, I feel like the world was in a pretty gluttonous place when this all happened. I mean, think about it, Elizabeth, how
Yeah.
many food and wine events were we going to, right? Like
Yeah.
unbelievable.
And
And
you're just kind of like, oh, we just go and we do our thing and we next one.
yeah. So it's
You're
been
right about
nice to slow down and prioritize and think about what's really important and who you do want to spend your time with and where you do want to invest your dollars and who you want to pour wine for. I mean, I'm so excited not necessarily to get back into markets as I am to go visit club members in my markets,
Yeah.
right? The
Mhm.
people who have kind of been here and supported us through this whole entire time. Yes, be different for
Well,
sure.
and which is kind of what Beyond Brooks is.
Yeah.
It was, I think Janie and I went into panic mode when everyone went down and, when we went into lockdown and we're like, what do you mean? We're not going to be traveling. We're not going to be meeting people and feeding our
What are we
curiosity.
supposed to do?
Yeah. so we made our own, but.
And look at this group. They went from being on welcome to Zoom within a 5-minute switch with no problem.
Right.
Like who could have done that a year and a half ago?
Yeah, exactly.
None of us would have been able to.
Yeah, my God, it's so nice for everybody to join in today because this is just like it's a really cool series that you guys do.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is such an incredible place, Brooks Winery, in such an incredible region.
It is. And we just have one more Beyond Brooks for the season. But Bree and I are working on next season. To start up in September, but next month in June on the 12th, we will be having Jordan McKay visiting with us, who he has huge knowledge in wine in general, but he also has co-authored a couple of cookbooks down in Texas. And so we're gonna, every recipient's gonna get his Franklin Steaks cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna send us some list of places to get meats. He's going to talk to us about all his secrets for grilling. And then he and Norma have been experimenting with a rub that they have made together that will be part of the package. So it'll be a great event. Antithesis, no vegetarian. We will be having red meat, I think, that day for sure. So hopefully everybody will be able to join us for that as well.
I hope there's some hazelnuts in the rub.
Yeah.
You got to get.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, well, next time we'll do, I don't know, I'll do something else fun too. Like,
yeah.
With or without meat. Doesn't matter. It's just, that's the point.
Well, I will have to say, last year, you and Norma really did an event pretty close to Mother's Day, I think, when COVID first happened, and you did pizza on the grill.
I know.
And a lot of people who were like, it's Elizabeth Falkner, why aren't we doing pizza? So we might have to have a repeat and teaching people how to cook pizza on their grill when you don't have to have a huge commercial pizza oven could be right too.
Although you guys have such a nice pizza oven here that it's hard not to cook in that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, I was just in Montana last week, and my chef friends and I were cooking pizza in the fireplace. So it's all
nice.
You gotta, it's a little DJing that you have to do. But
I love that.
So worth it.
Yeah. Did one more question come through?
Oh, if you could only have 5 spices in your kitchen, what would you pick?
Turmeric.
Okay. Cumin. Because it goes with so many different cuisines, and it's just such a lively spice. Aleppo chili, my favorite red chili, dried chili. It's from Syria and Turkey. It's such an amazing chili. You'll find that most California chefs really like Aleppo as their sort of red pepper choice. But right now it's questionable because I love guajillo chili so much. I think guajillo has just this other umami flavor that I just am crazy about, not just in Mexican cuisine, but it's also really good. Which is also / Calabrian chilies from Italy, one of my favorite chilies in the whole world. I don't know. It's everything, especially when you live on the East Coast and there's so much more Italian culture. So Calabrian chilies, dried, super, super spicy. But when they're packed in oil, that's like a go-to condiment ingredient in New York. Yeah. But we'll just call it chili.
So we've got cumin and 5 chilies.
But wait. Spices, okay. Because I have, like, if I give you my 5 favorite ingredients, it would be like cumin, Aleppo, Meyer lemon. I love Meyer lemons. Meyer lemon zest is like one of the best ingredients in the entire universe, in my perspective. Slash yuzu.
Oh yeah.
Yuzu is like such a delicious citrus fruit. Okay, what else? Well, then there's cocoa nibs. Not just chocolate, but cocoa nibs. Cocoa nibs are like, they're so good. It's the fermented roasted cocoa bean that makes couverture, makes chocolate.
Yeah.
Like the plain cocoa nibs, especially if they're really good source, are just a magic ingredient in a million different things. I love them on salads. I love them in smoothies. I love them in a spice rub for many different kinds of cuisines. Are just and there's like a superfood. Another favorite ingredient: sea buckthorn. Sea buckthorn / goji berries. I love a lot of superfoods. I love sea buckthorn because it's an acidic berry that grows on a bush in Himalayas, Scandinavia, and Ontario, Canada. Trying to get some farmers in the Northeast to grow it in Maine and New York, but you have to wait for a while for it to fruit. But it's a delicious, delicious ingredient that I find mostly Michelin-starred restaurants will use it in different applications. But it's one of my favorite. It's absolutely one of my favorite ingredients.
Cool.
And then I like humble ingredients. I love just rainbow carrots. I love chickpeas. I love all the legumes. I don't think I answered anybody's questions because I could keep going. Let's not talk about olives yet. I love olives. And there's so many different kinds that I love.
Yes. Amazing.
So good. Cast over.
And then there's cheese.
Yeah. Let's not forget the cheese.
Can never forget the cheese.
Right.
Amazing. And I'm not hungry. I feel like I would be hungry, and I just had this amazing kitchery that is so nourishing. Yeah.
The other thing, you guys, like out there's so many ingredients that I get to play with that people like we're just not aware of in our current psyche. I don't know if I was talking, Janie, with you about this, but I love mesquite flower. I think I was telling you about it last night. Mesquite flower is it's a powder that comes from a legume from the mesquite bush. So we all know mesquite for the wood that we chop down and use it to smoke and grill things, which is an amazing flavor from just the wood. But it's a bush that grows this legume and was eaten by a lot more cultures of Native Americans, and then everything else happened, and then that sort of got lost in the diet of a lot of those people. And mesquite is actually also really like the legume is really another super nutritional bean, and but ground into a powder, it's a really good thickener. It's also kind of sweet but low glycemic level, and I like playing with it in pastry and confectionery applications because it's got this very unique flavor that it kind of reminds you of malt and carob, but it's not exactly like that. And it kind of reminds me of maple sugar too, but not that sweet. And it's a fascinating ingredient because it can be used to thicken like a starch. So I feel like it has a lot of possibilities.
I actually just discovered I was out here the other day and working from the farmhouse, and I was driving back down the road, and on the Crannell property there's these big maple trees. I don't know if they're sugar maples, but they had these beautiful blossoms. And someone told me that you could eat them. And so I harvested a whole bunch and they were delicious. I put the little flowers in the salad. I made fritters out of some of them.
Wow.
And then the others I just quickly pickled. and threw them in my salad and put them on like a little piece of bread with some tuna the next day. And it was perfect. But
Oh, that sounds amazing.
yeah, they're so good.
Yeah, I think that we actually all kind of forget about how much stuff is edible.
Mhm.
And we've had to go through this whole evolution of people understanding and learning about that through millennia, but and now we're just buying packages of stuff that tell us what's in it.
Yeah.
And I love that. I went on a foraging trip in Alberta, no, in the Canadian Rockies one time
Oh.
with some other chefs, and we only went like maybe 50 yards, and we're just told about everything that's edible around us, and
Yeah.
it was like just walking down a trail, and you're like, oh, I never thought about that, and this is medicinal, and this is good, and the rose hip plant is entirely edible. Just yeah, I was like, wow, we really like transformed into something else, and knowing that stuff would be so helpful. You know, God forbid another pandemic where we're just like, what can I eat around here? You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Elizabeth, I know when we originally talked about this, you were in the middle of working on a cookbook. Where are you at with your
No, I'm not working on a cookbook. I'm working on a memoir book, which is a
memoir book?
massive process.
Okay.
And yeah.
So we're not looking for it anytime soon.
I don't know when, because I'm not writing it with a ghostwriter, or I'm doing it by myself. But I've got a few people around me that I've been working with. I was working with an agent, and then the political times of the last 4 years were a challenging time for memoir books, and also we've seen some oversaturation of chef memoirs.
Yeah.
But most of those are ghost written, so I just refuse to write it with somebody who knows how to write. So I actually have to learn how to write.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on.
Elizabeth, how do you think the pandemic is? I mean, we saw that it affected restaurants, right? The most, one of the most.
Yeah.
How do you think that everything that's happened in 2020, I guess it's not just the pandemic, but how do you think that's going to alter, the running of restaurants, or how we build restaurants?
Yeah, I think it's really going to change for the better, because I've been working on this documentary for the last year, and that'll come out soon, probably sometime later this summer. We're in post-production of it right now.
Okay.
And I had sat down with a director friend of mine who just released a film called Her Name is Chef. And so you can find that on Amazon and iTunes and all kinds of streaming. If you haven't seen it yet, that's a really good film centered around Fatima Ali, who was an amazing chef who died at a super young age. And I had the fortune of meeting her in Pebble Beach and cooking with her at an event. And she was one of the top chef contestants and one like fan favorite. And she was just an amazing spirit from Pakistan. And everybody fell in love with her. She was just great. So the film centers more around her story, but also follows 6 female chefs and the kind of, I'm somebody I'm actually probably the oldest chef in the mix. And so I've experienced, 30 years of cooking with an extremely male-dominated industry, like most industries. And so it's got a lot of our stories around it. But so the same director, and I encourage everybody to see that film because I think it's really great. And also I have a really badass costume of wearing a cat suit and annihilating a confetti cake. And so just watch it for that alone. But no, there's some really good stories, and you'll maybe gain more insight on what it's like being a woman in this business for some time, and you'll recognize some of the people. Anyway, so Peter and I decided early last year, that we would work on a documentary together about really trying to understand how the psychology of chefs and how we are sort of military acting people where we just kind of keep going and checking in with our physical and emotional well-being or not. And then when the pandemic hit, we had both coincidentally moved to Southern California, after the quarantine 3 months. And we said, oh my gosh, we've got to go out and film. We've got to film some stuff, because I started having this very personal reaction to what it feels like to close restaurants. And I spent, 25 years cooking in San Francisco and had to close, really shut down my babies. They were my babies. Citizen Cake was my baby, and Orson was my new baby. And then after the stock market crash, I had to shut them down, because 3 years after that, 2011, it was just impossible. It was an impossible structure. And so when the pandemic hit, I started freaking out, because I was like, oh my God, all my chef friends this feels terrible. Like, it feels like everybody's going to have to stop. And I've got to tell them, I've got to go out and I just care about people so much. I care, especially as chefs. And I was like, these people are going to try to take care of everybody, but are they really capable of even taking care of themselves? So I think it's a really important story to talk about in person with somebody who's not an outsider. So I have these conversations with 10 chefs from LA, 10 from San Francisco, 10 from New York, and 10 from New Jersey, and some virtual conversations with chefs in between. And you'll see Michelin-starred chefs, people that you know, and celebrity chefs on Food Network, to people that you may not know so well, from people that own taquerias or Vietnamese restaurants, to pivoting and doing pop-up or doing bento boxes, and just the whole everything. And then we start to, and right when we're filming is when Black Lives Matter comes up, and we're really in the trenches with everybody. So I think there's just a lot of good storytelling, and I also have this privilege of knowing Professor Paul Friedman from Yale University, who I traveled to China with, and he and I had a conversation, as well as Alice Waters, who we all know, who are almost capable of telling us what they sort of predict from climate change, and so there's just a lot of good information from people who are actually doing the work all the time. And I think it's going to be, also going to be an important film.
Does that have a name for it yet, or how do we?
It's called Sorry We're Closed.
Okay.
Oh.
Great.
Yeah. A lot of political stuff in there.
It's great. It needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great because, like, the Independent Restaurant Coalition is, been doing so much work, so much groundwork with lobbyists and governors to try to change and get the money needed to help this industry that employs so many people and pays so much tax.
Yeah.
So it's great. You'll hear Dominique Crenn talking about tax structure, and Gabrielle Hamilton talking about should we as an industry go on strike?
Mm-hmm.
So there's some good stuff. There's some good nuggets in there. I just want it to be a really great film. I want it to feel like what the insanity feels like as a chef.
Yeah.
I don't want it to feel like any documentary.
Right.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I
it
can't
does.
wait. Yeah.
So we're getting there.
Good. So you've been busy through the pandemic.
Somehow, like, I feel lucky because I haven't been running restaurants for like the last, 6 or 7 years. I did for so long, and then I kind of extracted myself and said, I think I have other things I want to talk about in different formats, but it's always around food. So I've had a lot of practice now getting almost prepared for that.
That's great. Yeah. I can't wait.
Oh, thank you, Corby and Marie, for, it's on Amazon, Vimeo, and Virtual Cinema. Yeah.
There you go.
Her name is Chef.
I'm going to watch it tonight.
Nice.
So nice for everybody to tune in today. I hope everybody's just like hanging out and eating all their food and drinking some wine now.
Yeah. For the rest of the day.
Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. It's been so great to have you back to Brooks. fun to celebrate tonight at the wedding.
Yeah.
No, Chef Norma's super excited that you were able to make it and we were able to coordinate this at the same time.
Yeah.
So great, you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we have to do this again. We look forward to doing this on the next round of Beyond Brooks with you. And maybe we do a pre-screening of that movie when it comes out.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be really fun.
I think that's because this is what Beyond Brooks is about as well, is, you know, we need to have these conversations and open, you know, get deeper understandings on so many products and subjects that we don't know about. I've learned so much about tea and kombucha and
Oh my god, that kombucha. That was so good.
Yeah.
coffee and
I have so many more cooking tips up my sleeve now.
yeah. Now I have this amazing dish that this has gone straight to my heart.
I've got more over here, so just walk over here.
We will. We'll be over in a minute. And then thank you to everybody for joining us today and being such great supporters of Beyond Brooks. And this was definitely a different format than what we've done, but amazing. So thank you, Elizabeth, for carrying the camera and doing so much. It was truly incredible.
Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody enjoy your afternoons. And we'll see you next month.
Sounds good.
Okay. Here.
Thank you.